Okay.
Nelson, I just went live. Still haven't started yet.
I'm gonna hire you.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Would you like to sign in?
I'll sign it.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, that's not what's called.
Yes, no problem.
Yeah, we're working. I'm looking out there all the time. But I wanted to try to
The memory's not as good as it used to be. Retirement's going on.
Yeah, I saw that email.
But when I went to quite frankly, it was about 7 years.
I'm just trying to find
Well, and they'll never, they won't throw it away because
going to LSU.
She did last year, and then they invited her back this year, and she's staying on. Free lodging.
yeah.
Big intern next January. Oh, really? Oh, no, it's her senior one. It's her senior. These are just kind of, looks like trouble in them. Oh, well. Cheers, that's a good thing.
If one is not enough, try 11, that's right.
I know she's out of the house.
Or they say, oh, you can't do anything. They're working. Yeah.
But that,
Yeah, I'll show all y'all where these photos.
Please have small chairs on the other side.
How they look out. Very much.
We always see them show. Oh, you guys go see some? Yeah, but we've gone there to see them. But I'm on chance also there. Hi, how are you? Yeah. Please, would you mind signing me? Down there, I'm definitely tired. I'm definitely tired. So are we
We were talking about it just now, but.
That wasn't nothing good to come out of that.
stranger?
They were in, I was in Richmond, I was at Monday for children, 40 years
so, you know, there's a lot of.
prior to that. So, Well, it's 6:05, so, and almost 6:05, so we can start. So, first of all, welcome to this workshop. This is about Beach Road. And I want to thank each of you for making the time to attend in person this workshop. I also want to thank everybody who is at home watching through YouTube streaming. So thanks to everyone who are attending one way or the other. So this is the agenda that we will follow today as part of this workshop. And then I also would like to introduce our mayor. Please, Mayor Molly Young, who is attending. I also would like to introduce our vice mayor, Mr. Stones, and I would like to introduce also our council member. Thank you so much. So please, do you mind signing in? I also would like to take a second to introduce our village manager, Mr. Jeremy Am. So I am Nilsa Zacharias. I am the Community Development Director. I have a bachelor degree in architecture and a master degree in planning. I am also certified planner by the American Institute of Certified Planners, AICP. And for me, it's truly an honor to serve the village of Tequesta. This is a very special place, and I'm very happy that we are doing this workshop tonight. So we will talk about the goals of the workshop, the existing conditions of Beach Road. What is happening on Beach Road lately? So we'll go one by one about that. We also will brainstorm about the design and aesthetics ideas. And the main thing is we would like to listen and each of you. So there will be a session where you will voice your concerns, you will voice your ideas. And definitely we'll talk about the next steps. What's going to happen after tonight? So these are the main goal, as I just mentioned, is to listen, each of you, get feedback from the residents. We also would like to talk about the redevelopment phase in Beach Road. You noticed there are new buildings happening in Beach Road. And why is that, and what is the impact of that? first of all, please note that the village of Tequesta is almost built out. What that means is that there will be more projects for redevelopment. We are we are already on it, the redevelopment phase, which means that older buildings from maybe the 60s, 70s, 80s, they will be changing one way or another. So I don't know if you recall this. Do you remember the BB&T bank here on the corner? Remember what used to be? Well, that bank that used to be there is not there anymore. Basically now we have a new bank, a new building, a smaller, and so it was transformed. So that's part of redevelopment. And as you notice, in Beach Road, lately, we have, for example, 2 smaller lots. They were bought by a developer. They were consolidated in one lot, and now there is the Siglas building there. So that is what when redevelopment happens, that's what the cities will experience. We also will go one by one analyzing the existing conditions of the corridor. We will look at landscaping. We will look at height of the buildings. We look at, basically, I call that X-ray. We are going to understand and study the existing conditions of Beach Road. And then also we will brainstorm with regard to design and aesthetics. What kind of vision do you have for your corridor? So we will go into that also. Oops. So this is our zoning map. The red box is showing where is Beach Road and what is the zoning district. Is R3, multifamily R3. And I have detailed slides what does mean to be a residential 3 zoning district. But that is extremely important. Everything starts with knowing what is the zoning district and what are the qualification or requirements of the zoning district. So let's start by the code, R3 district. So what is this? The current code requires 20 feet setback. Oh, just let me tell you, this PowerPoint will be on the website. So you can download it later, and so it will be available for everyone. So the main structure has 20 feet. That's the code. So what is the side setback? The side setback is requiring 20 feet from the property line. So there is a requirement of 20 feet. And then, as the building goes up, after the 50 feet, they need to scale down on the side setback. The rear setback is requiring 20 feet. So a building needs to be 20 feet away from the rear property line. These are the main issues with regard to the zoning district. What are the setbacks? That's one of the first things that the developers, the designers, the architect will be looking at. Also, the code requires a 30% open space, which means it's a permeable surface. It cannot be concrete, it cannot be a driveway, it cannot be the footprint of the building. So 30% of the lot needs to be dedicated to green area or to be permeable. The water needs to go through, period. So, and with regard to building height, for R3, the code says very clearly 11 stories. That is on the code right now. 11 stories or 101 feet. The lot coverage, the code requires 35%. And the density that we have now on the code is 12 dwelling units per gross acre. That's is a key number that every developer is looking at before they pursue buying or developing a property. How many units can they locate in that parcel? That's a key information. So all of this is part of our current code. Every building that is right now on Beach Road is in compliance with this code or had had a variance. So let's look at the existing conditions. Now we are going to X-ray this Beach Road corridor. Right now you have on Beach Road 12 existing condominium buildings, and one is currently under construction, which is the Siglas building that is under construction. So 4 of the buildings, they were built on the 70s. 6 of the buildings, they were built in 1980s. 2 buildings in 1990s, and 1 building, the Siglas, is currently under construction. So in terms of how new or how old are the buildings, these are the facts. We also wanted to summarize what are the height of the existing buildings. 4 of the buildings that are right now on Beach Road has 11 stories. 2 buildings have 9 stories. 3 buildings have 6 stories. 2 buildings have 4 stories, and 2 other buildings have 3 stories. Again, these are the facts of the existing buildings that are right now on this road. Because we have heard a lot of questions with regard to height. So most of the buildings are high. Yes, sir?
For purpose of this meeting, in terms of Beach Road, are you considering anything north of Coral Cove, or is everything south that we're talking about?
Well, the boundary of the village of Tequesta, let me just go back to that slide. 1 second. That's a good question, actually. 1 second. Let me go back. You see, all the white area, let me just get there, is part of the county. So here we have Beach Road, then we have the Palm Beach County, then we have Siglas, and then we have the Coral Cove Park. So the boundary of the village of Tequesta does not extend north of Coral Cove Park.
All right,
This
so
is the last building that we have in the village of Tequesta.
Seaglass is the furthest north we're talking about.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
This
All right,
is
thank
the
you.
last building, Siglas. Okay. Our boundaries are a little bit, as you see there. One part is Palm Beach County, which is not Tequesta, and then there is Tequesta, So, but that was a great question. The following slides will present one at a time the existing buildings that are built on Beach Road. This is the Jeep Club, which is in 50 Beach Road, and it was built in 1983, and the height is 6 stories. Ocean Tower South is in 100 Beach Road, and was built in 1982, and has currently 11 stories. Then we have Ocean Towers, 200 Beach Road, and again, it was built in 1993 and has 11 stories. Ocean Villas, 225 Beach Road, 6 stories, 1972. So each of the buildings that are there right now, then this is 250 Beach Road, 6 stories, 1978. 275 Beach Road is 3 stories, 1980.
That acreage,
Those
I-
isn't right.
Those aren't right.
Those aren't right numbers.
Yes, they were from the property appraisal, the Palm Beach County property appraisal. Island House Southeast, 300 Beach Road, is 4 stories and was built in 1977. And as you all know, or I heard, please note, right now the village of Tequesta is currently reviewing and processing an application for 300 Beach Road. So basically the developer had bought this property and had provided to the village a site plan review application, and we are currently reviewing. So the next step will be planning and zoning board, and then we'll go to village council.
Has there been any application for 250 Beach Road?
No,
Okay.
the village, we have not received yet 250 Beach Road. So this is Island House Southwest, 325 Beach Road in 1983.
No, it's 1968. My grandparents moved in the day
In
before.
68. Okay, well, thank you. We are going to
Not that
correct
bad,
that from
it's
the
me.
property.
A little off.
1968.
Positive I was there.
Very good. Can we write down that, please? 1968. We will correct that. Thank you. So Island House Northeast, 1989, 4 stories. Lamar Condos is a 375 Beach Road and is a 9-story 1980.
No.
1969.
1969, okay,
And Regency was 1969 also.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have buildings, we thought we had buildings only 70s and 80s. Obviously, we have buildings from the 60s, which make more interesting. Tequesta Towers, 1973.
So early, probably 70 or 77.
Well, it started in 69, it was, the declaration was 1970.
Okay. Lamar, 1970. So this is Tequesta Towers. Thank you, Mr. Galan, for attending. So it was built in 1973, according to the property appraisal. I gotta start saying that. Equipment is 11 stories, 1996. Then we have Sea Glass, 1500 Beach Road, that is under construction. That is the one that is adjacent to the Coral Cove Park. So now we will talk more about design and aesthetics, building articulations, massing, colors, landscaping. What does mean building articulation and massing? That's kind of a big question. What do you mean, Nielsa? I heard that many times. Okay, well, let me see. So most of the time, a tall building has 3 specific parts, 3 sections, which is the top, the middle. The top is the skyline. The middle, which is the body itself with windows and balconies. And then we have a base that connects directly with the landscaping and is the entry to the building. So, and then in tall buildings, most of the time, these will add aesthetic and interest to the buildings. Okay, let's look at some of the buildings that we have on Beach Road. We have the top, the middle, and we have a base. There are many instances the base is the entry, the covered parking. And when I read the code, I found very interesting that the code right now provides that a covered parking garage can be completely to the front. So remember what I said at the beginning, the zoning was for the main building was 20 or 25 the front setback. Well, that's not the case for a covered garage. So let's look at what the code says actually. Covered garage is not a main structure, it's an accessory structure. And actually, can be all the way to the front if it is actually buffered for landscaping. That's the reason you will see a number of covered garage on the front of the buildings because it's allowed, it's permitted by the current zoning code right now. These are the current buildings that you see on Beach Road. You will recognize there some of your own homes and buildings. So there is a lot of concrete that you can see right at the beginning. So, and I want to talk about building massing. So building massing it's just the mass of the building, how it's distributed, you know. Maybe it has a name, massing, but it's just how the volume of the building is distributed. So, and there could be many ways of distributing the mass of a building that's showing on those sketches. What we have right now on Beach Road is this example, where you have a tall building and then you have the covered garage in the front, or you just have a tall building. So right now, these are the two types of massings that we can encounter on the existing buildings in Beach Road.
So can the parking lots, covered parking be considered 30% of the permeable?
No, no, no. Anything that is with concrete, with floor, that cannot be computed for open space. So these are also some of the massing of the existing buildings that you can see. Basically, they are blocks, or they have in front the covered garage. Let's talk about color palettes. Remember when we said aesthetics and design, we are talking about articulation, type of material, colors, massing. So most of the color palettes that exist there now are these colors: creamy, concrete colors, similar building colors. Oh, sorry. So these are the existing signage that we have right now. Windows and balconies. Windows and balconies are important features of aesthetic, you know, because they really occupy most of the building is actually balconies or windows. So these are the typical windows and balconies that you can encounter now on the buildings on Beach Road. They are very small building, windows and similar type of balconies. Let's talk about the landscape buffers. And now I would like to introduce also Mr. Steve Parker. And then he's the village consultant with regard to landscaping. He has assisted in a number of site plan reviews, a number of also the reviews of the Beach Road buildings. So he's very knowledgeable of the village code, and he's also a resident. So on top of everything. So these are some of the slides with regard to trees and path sizes need to be increased to soften tall buildings. You know, Steve, I don't know if you would like to add something about it, or?
Well, I just think that maybe the discussion would happen with the buffering, the size of the buffer that's now in the current code, and then what would be maybe suggestions or observations on my part or from people that are here as far as increasing those buffers. And as you mentioned here, we might need taller vegetation, especially as it goes in, because these buildings are quite tall. Obviously, we don't want to block views of the water or the ocean, but maybe along the sides of the buildings, palms or trees to help soften.
So we're going to be looking at very close those items. So also here, that's what, yes?
I just have a question before we get too far beyond building massing. You made the statement that the existing massing of buildings on Beach Road is tall towers with parking garages in front?
Some of them.
Some of that, okay. I just wanted to make
Oh,
sure
no,
that
no, no,
isn't
no.
gonna be the only thing considered in
No.
new projects.
No.
Because the low-rise buildings are a significant element of the aesthetics of Beach Road.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So with regard to landscaping, Mr. Parker just mentioned that the village code right now, it requires only 5-foot buffer along the side property line. So from the property line to the building, only 5-foot buffer of landscape area. So that's very minimum right now. and then also only 10 feet along the right-of-way or along Beach Road. Basically, it's only 10 feet landscape buffer. Do you have a question? Oh, I thought you had a question. Okay. No. So,
Well, I'd like to ask a question about that because, so at what point does the city consider easement deeds that are a part of these? Because Seamist has an easement deed on the ocean side.
A path, you know,
Yeah.
to travel through
path.
was probably gonna be a knockdown and rebuild. And so where's the city's position on these easements?
well, we're gonna need to look at that one at a time, specifically, you know, what, how it's being used now, you know, and usually easements are there to stay, but we need to look at that one-on-one, and also the legal department will be involved in reviewing those easements.
Yeah, I'd like for someone to look at the Seamist easement that's recorded.
Which building are you?
Seamist,
Seamus?
Okay,
I can send you the
can you
information.
please, Sarah, hand it down? Yes, thank you,
Mhm.
taking notes.
We'd like to be able to go during construction and to have our
Okay.
easement protected.
So what about lighting? Lighting is also extremely important, and especially when we are talking about beach areas. So the existing lighting, we encountered that one pole that is on the right of way, and also obviously each of the condominium building has some minor lightings in front. One public street light, and then all the others are on the private properties. This is a sidewalk map, because we were saying, okay, let's look at this area. Can we walk through? We can't, or yes or no, you know. So let me just, there is no sidewalk on the west side of Beach Road. The only sidewalk that we encountered was on the east side. So, and there are some trees more on the north area, but most of the area has not shade trees. So it's not very friendly to be walking there in our Florida weather without the shade trees. So those are part of what's happening right now on this residential corridor. Yes.
So are you talking about building a new sidewalk on the west side?
No, we are not talking about that yet. We just want to listen, and we'll get there. What are the improvements that you would like to see? Yes, sir?
Yeah, I've always seen that west side as being natural, no sidewalks, anything. No
Okay.
parking lots like in front of Sea Glass, that's all protected. Now, are you talking about putting sidewalks over there
No,
now?
like I said, I am not talking about that. I'm just presenting the facts. This is what's happening now, and then we would like to listen from you and everybody if you would like to see in the future maybe additional sidewalk or not. We're gonna write to that part of the workshop. So this is what's happening right now. There are sidewalks on one side and no sidewalks on the other side, and there are very few shade trees, honestly. Recreational activity that is in this area. So this waterway really attracts a number of visitors, you know. It's beautiful, what not to like. So, and that's also increased on street parking, as I'm sure you experienced that. So these are photos showing the busy on-street parking, and also showing the benches that we encountered throughout the corridor. We encountered 3 benches along the sidewalk. So, we believe benches are good, because if you are walking alone and there is a place where you can actually rest, check your text or whatever, it's part of the amenity of the corridor. So we encountered 3 benches. So now that we have seen what is the existing conditions of the corridor, we would like to do a little brainstorming with regard to design and aesthetics. So when we are talking about building articulation, there are different ways to actually provide this type of articulation. It could be on the top, or it could be like a terrace, or also could be a corner. So let's just look at it in general. This is an example of a building that is scaled down. So you see the tall part, and then it goes down as it goes closer to the sidewalk, it goes down. And a scaled down building. So as we talk about building articulation, here you can see the top area is very well defined, then all the balconies and windows, and then the area close to the sidewalk or to the entry of the building. So this building presents a visual interest because it provides that difference in articulations. Building massing, it can be achieved in many ways. It could be like this, for example. These are just some examples. And then in this case, it's scaled down high, that it will be more pedestrian friendly. Because when you walk through the sidewalk, you won't see that big one, volume. So you will see a more human scale building. So it could be, like I said, it could be achieved in different ways. These are examples of building articulations, for example, and also different colors, variation in massing. Yes, sir?
Well, all these that you're showing, there's no greens in front.
Well,
You're talking about buildings right on the sidewalk, which is not what I think we have.
No, we are not talking about buildings on the sidewalk.
Well, that's what you're showing.
We are talking only here about the massing of the buildings. For example, in that case, there are trellis that provides an articulation on the skyline area. Other type of articulations and colors of a building. So, for example, these are different type of volumes, articulations, and massings. There is a combination, for example, of different materials, large windows. In that case, there is a well-defined skyline. As you see, the variety of different elements create an aesthetic interest. There could be also corner articulations. For example, these ones, or rooftop gardens or plantings. How many buildings on Beach Road offer roof planting or green roof? One. Thank you. So there are different possibilities as we move forward that you, the residents, need to start considering. Another one that is top-down. When it comes to balconies, we saw that most of the style right now on Beach Road, they are small windows and similar type of balconies. But as we move forward also, the next developers that come through, they could consider other type of balconies, other type of windows. Color palettes. Maybe if we have a design guideline that offers some type of alternatives in color palettes, that also could be something to consider. Right now, all the buildings, they look very similar. They are pretty much the same color.
Is that based on code, or has that just been decisions of each building?
Color, we do not have right now on our code anything that speaks with regard to color.
Okay.
Yes. And maybe for that reason, all the buildings look very similar.
When you talk about mass and all of that, does the town of Tequesta have any codes that say when building a new building, replacing one of the old buildings, that they cannot block the view that was there before? I know someone told me that, like in Connecticut, in certain building and construction, that if you come in and tear down a building, you can't block the view of someone that had a view when they bought theirs behind there.
We do not have right now that in our code. No.
Because it changes significantly, the building they're building now from parallel to horizontal of their
Yes,
design.
on the sea glass you mentioned?
No,
Yeah, that is not being built yet.
right, but the plans
The
have
plan
turned,
is,
Yes.
the building now is east-west, it's gonna go north-south, so it's,
Yes.
it will block, block more of the view of the east side,
So your consideration is from looking east?
yes,
Mhm.
yes. That's significant.
Yeah.
It's 2/3 of the view is blocked
yeah.
I see.
We've seen
Right
some-
now,
with
that's
the
a
new
good input.
presentation.
That's a very good input, and it's a great input, but we do not have that in our code now. So, for example, building with more than one colors, like these examples, for example, that could be, part of the vision, if the residents decide that. Also has, from the road, the landscaping, what kind of landscaping we would like to add to this. Obviously, we have something in our code now, but we could have different type of landscape with regard to this corridor. This is our residential corridor, and buildings can be built up to 11 stories, so we might need to consider different type of landscaping for this area. So, the lighting, obviously lighting is a concern because the sea turtles and the Palm Beach County Environmental Resource Management, they prescribe what can be done with regard to protect the sea turtles. So that's part of the Palm Beach County process.
What about the construction on the beach and the easement on the beach and protecting the dunes on the beach?
We will talk about that later in the year. We will have a specific meeting with regard to the dunes. We are looking into the dunes right now. The dunes actually involve different type of agencies, so we are taking notes with regard to the dunes. On this workshop, we are listening and listening your concerns and taking notes. So crosswalk, how easy is to cross from one side to the other on Beach Road? We're gonna be looking at that too. Do you have a need of additional crosswalks or not? Yes? Okay.
Yes, we do.
They won't
Yes.
use them.
At 7 o'clock in the morning when they come flying on Jupiter Island, yep.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
They won't
So
be used.
that's one of the concerns. So with regard, but you don't have a sidewalk on one side, so you have to cross right there in front of your building. So if you are crossing on the other side of the sidewalk. Yes?
Recently, there were several crosswalks built across Beach Road from one side to the other with zebra stripes. People who park there pay no attention to them. They go across wherever they park.
In
On
front of
Beach
Guadalupe is a perfect example of that.
Which
They
one?
never use the crosswalk.
Which one?
In front of Guanabanas, all those crosswalks,
Yeah, that's-
nobody
Yeah,
uses them.
Guanabanas, yes, that's,
Nobody uses them.
that's on Jupiter.
I know, but the
Yeah.
concept of crosswalks, people don't use them.
I know, so that's also we wanted to hear from you. And then with regard, for example, to the sidewalks, we were talking about this, right now, the only sidewalk that there is in Beach Road is a straight, a straight line, adjacent to the road. Maybe in the future, if the residents consider, we could have more like a meandering sidewalk that will go in and out on the landscaping to have more, being more, aesthetic pleasing.
Excuse me, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Regarding the sidewalks, as you go north and you hit the county park, would the city redo the sidewalks in there also?
On the county
On
park,
the county park, yeah.
I don't think so, I cannot answer that question, so that will be something to consider, because the Coral Cove Park is within our boundaries, but we don't own the park,
Right,
that's the
right,
difference.
yeah.
So, anyway,
Okay.
so that will be something to consider and to talk with Palm Beach County, actually. Yes?
When you talk about landscaping, which area are you talking about? The ones from Beach Road to the right-of-way or including the right-of-way to the building?
I think at this point, we are considering both. The section from the road to the, to the property line, and then inside the property line.
If there are changes contemplated, currently, the individual condos take care and plant the area from Beach Road to their building, or to their property line. If there are changes contemplated, who pays for those?
That's a great question, and we will consider that. So usually that area is, like you said, sometimes it's paid by the property owners, and sometimes it's also part of the city, the village. So we would have to consider that because that's part of the right of way. Good question. So we are taking notes, all your questions. So now that we did this brainstorming and we look at what are the existing conditions, we would like to hear your thoughts about it. So we have a couple of questions, and we are going to take notes with regard to those questions. So, is the first one? Okay. Well, let's put this here. So this is our first question, and this, yes, it's on the, how do you envision Beach Road in the next 10, 20, or 30 years? Is the question that is in front of you on the screen. So it will be, you are residents of Beach Road, and you have invested, it's your home, and I think it's extremely important to us, all of you. How do you envision this corridor, this beautiful, it's right by the ocean. So we're gonna be writing down your ideas.
Well, I would say I'd like to be able to still see the beach.
See the-
And not have buildings 10 foot high all the way down the road.
Yeah, here's, what I envision over the next 10 years in our area, in the southern part of where all the condos are, is a lot of construction. And so my question is, what can the city do to minimize the impact on the condos that are not, the condos that are not being torn down and rebuilt? Because there's going to be a tremendous amount of traffic and traffic control. I mean, that's going to have to be taken care of, whether it's by the city or the county or whoever. And the other thing is where, during the construction, where is the city going to allow them or dictate to them where their contractors or their subcontractors can park, deliver materials, and the list goes on and on and on.
Okay.
So I think that's something that needs to really be kind of examined.
Yes.
Currently on US 1, they are blocking 1 to 2 lanes of US 1 for a majority of the day for construction of 96 townhouses on US 1.
US 1, yes.
Yes, and there is no safety. There's no cops there.
Safety is very
Yeah,
important.
there's no safety, there's no one watching them set up their safety. I think the developer should be paying for that, not the city.
Yes. So, Mr. Bradford?
So I don't live on Beach Road, but I've lived in Tequesta for 36 years. And if we don't take proactive steps at this point in time, what I see within the next 10 years, putting development aside, is mayhem. Because we're going to see the southern extension of Coral Cove Park, which is going to result in more traffic and more parking. And if there's anyone in this room that remembers what double roads was before the way it exists today, this is slowly but surely what's happening on Beach Road today with the influx of non-residents in an uncontrolled environment where Palm Beach County totally ignores aesthetics, public safety, on and on the list goes. So I want my opinion to be known on that, that I see mayhem if we don't do something now in conjunction with Palm Beach County.
Yes.
I see that it's already a problem. It's already double road.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I used to have a lot of fun on Double Road.
Sir, you had a comment?
Yeah, to me, one of the things I envision is that the west side of that road stays protected. That we don't have parking lots over there and everything else, like we're seeing with sea glass right now.
Yeah.
West side,
The west side of Beach Road stays natural and protected. No development, no parking lots, nothing.
No concrete.
Yeah.
When you say no parking lots, do you mean private parking lots for?
Well, I don't know, when I go by sea glass, I haven't gone by, they had a parking lot across the street from the hotel.
It's a public,
Well,
it's a
that's,
public parking
good.
area.
So what I think is that the on-street.
Now, I'm talking about not just the people on the side, I'm talking about knocking all the trees down and making a parking lot to the water.
Oh, I
Well, ride by and see, unless they change it, that's the way it was.
don't think it's good.
The on-street parking, there needs to be order relative to the on-street parking. I think the odds are nil that the county will prohibit on-street parking.
The on-street parking is a safety hazard right now. I
I'm
drive
sure
that
it
road
is.
a lot, and the people are staggering into the road, it's
Well, it's not,
Staggering
the
is right
roadway,
word.
the roadway and the intercoastal. So they have access to the water from there, and then they have access to all the west side swimming pools all the way down. And as I sat by the pool last weekend, we ran off 3 sets of families, children, and adults that decided to get out
and go for
on
a
our
swim.
dock and hit our pool and then walk back up to their car at Coral Road.
so how do you envision your corridor in the next 20 years, 10 years?
Safer,
Safer,
more peaceful.
more peaceful. Yes?
And I see, my concern is the development that's taking place on Beach Road. What makes Jupiter Island unique, especially in the south end, is the variety. We have the low-rise buildings, we have older buildings. That's what makes it unique. I don't really want to live in Singer Island or Miami Beach. And that's what I see happening. I think the development is just coming, and there's nothing stopping them.
That the reason we are meeting tonight to listen and to see how can we be proactive with regard to this. You already seen what is in the code right now, what is allowed, so, sir,
How many buildings did you say you have on that corridor?
13?
So if you put 13, for lack of a better term, 0 lot line concept buildings that have a 10-foot setback for a garage, a 20-foot setback on 3 sides of the building, how Miami and bulky is that gonna be in that corridor?
So what is
That's
the
very good. So, what is the vision then? How do you
Well,
envision that in
anything
the
but
next?
that would be where you guys would be.
Oh, okay, we can provide a vision.
I mean, you gotta be realistic, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
Developers wanna build to the biggest and acquire as much money. Cities wanna take tax dollars. Let's look at it from a whole perspective where it's not just money.
Not just money, I like that.
So, is there a consideration of changing some of it?
Well, we are going to, yes, we are going there, little by little, we are approaching. The next question that we have is, what do you like right now about the beach road? What do you like the best?
Open space.
Variety of building sizes.
You like that right now, there are a variety of building sizes?
Yes.
Okay.
I like the scale.
Absolutely.
Not all
Scale of the
high-rises.
building sizes, not massive.
Yes.
That's good. Yes, what else do you like?
keeping it the way it is.
Okay.
No intent.
Right now, I would have to say the safety of the area. You know,
Safety.
Yeah, it's a, relatively safe, although we're seeing some concerning things happening, but
Yes. Please,
Natural?
the
It looks
nature.
natural, like this
Yeah,
gentleman
natural.
was saying that west side, you can see the intercoastal and appreciate it, looks natural.
Less public parking on the west side.
So no, we are talking about what do you like about it right now, the way it is right now? So any other, we like the open space, the variety of the building size, some are 3 stories, other 4, 6, 11. So, and also the natural environment, so those.
Access to parks.
Access to parks, that's very important.
And seeing sea turtles nesting naturally.
Oh, that's amazing.
It is amazing.
And all the buildings looking the same color. I like that.
I don't understand the access to parks. We've got one park up there.
More people like having no access.
Yeah, but there's a.
And limited beach access, public beach access,
Limited public beach.
beach access.
Okay, that's,
I would add to that and say the intercoastal too, because both sides.
Yeah.
That's not what I like.
so nature is also the intercoastal, that's amazing.
Walking, biking, recreation.
Recreation. Biking. So, okay, so we have a list of things that we like. Now, let's talk about this. What are the things that you would like to change? This is important. Yes,
Control the parking, the public parking. Make less of it. Restricted to the parking lot of the Coral Cove Park.
so when you say control public parking, are you referring to the cars that are on the street?
On the west side.
Side street parking, yeah.
But that limits just you people that live, I go to the beach all the time at night to walk, and I don't live in the building, so I need beach, I need to park, and I need beach access. Coral Cove shuts their gates supposedly at sunset. I know I've gotten stuck in there. So, so I also, as someone that lives in Tequesta, would like to have access to the beach at night.
Maybe we could look at leaving that parking area open.
Well,
Yes,
it's the county controls that though.
Oh, is that the county?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
But
Yeah,
don't
I
put
don't know.
much.
Yes, you
I
can.
someone to get mad.
So,
One second.
this is related possibly to the public parking control, but, one of the things is that there is a little preserve might be the wrong word, but there's a mangrove something or other on the west side of the road. And what's happening today because of the uncontrolled parking along the right-of-way is that the access to the intercoastal is not limited. In other words, they're not directing people to specific points, and therefore it's mayhem, and they're killing mangroves over time, and that
Yeah.
needs to stop.
Absolutely.
That vegetation's been
Absolutely.
damaged.
Yeah, the access is not defined.
Defined.
It's not defined, that's
Like a
what's
beach,
happening.
like a beach, you go over the dune, there's a dune crossover. They don't have any delineated access to the edges of the water of the intercoastal.
Yes,
So I guess you could
So
write then,
keep-
I'm gonna tie into that, protect the mangroves. I mean, that would be part of.
I think the other thing, protect our bridge. We were living there in 2002 and had to rebuild from the hurricane, and the bridge was out on the south corridor. And so I would like for them to look at protecting our bridge and whether our bridge has limits to how many concrete trucks can go over it in one day or at one time. If that that bridge goes out.
Yes, that's not a good thing. Yes, he had a comment today. 1 second.
Yeah, with regards to the change here, what level of influence does the village have over the Parks and Recreation of Palm Beach County that's controlling the park there? Is there any influence whatsoever?
None.
We don't own the park, we don't maintain the park, our budget is not, doesn't have monies toward the park.
But as a
So the egress to the park through the village, and the village has no say in what the park is doing?
I'm sure if there are some large problems, we can address it. We work very close with Palm Beach County, so do you perceive any, please let us know.
I think you just wrote down a whole bunch of those concerns. And it is really the parking along the road there. And I could appreciate having some access for village members to get there at all hours. I'm not against that. But if the only parking, off-street parking is in a Palm Beach County controlled lot, what influence do we have to get rid of the on-street parking that's causing the biggest problem and make access to that lot available? I mean, does the village have that opportunity to do?
We can definitely reach out to the commissioner, and we can definitely voice our concerns. I mean, but please remember again the map. The Cove Park is within our boundaries. Then there is another big area that is not even in our boundaries. But still, we work really close with Palm Beach County, and I'm very sure we can reach out to them and, raise our concerns, definitely.
Can I ask a question, because I try not to, I live over on the other side of the bridge, guys. So, and I avoid going there on weekends, so for good reason, and obviously I'm hearing that you guys are inundated on the side of the road, people recreating, correct? Is there some way to maybe a weekend situation where no parking on weekends are allowed there to,
or heavier policing, because, I mean, there's signs all along there that say no alcoholic beverages, and,
No charcoal fires.
and, I walk the dog up there, and it's like, everybody's hanging out on the tailgate of a truck drinking a beer, and, they've got girls on the ground barbecuing there, and I don't begrudge them that, but I mean, if the law says no alcoholic beverages, then it needs to be enforced, and that will cut down on some of the congestion,
And again, it's not Tequesta Police, because
Right.
it's Palm Beach County, but we can definitely raise that concern to Palm Beach County. We work very close with them, so I think that's based on this input that all of you are voicing your concerns, we definitely can reach out to Palm Beach County. So what else would you like to change? Yes.
I'm Mary Young. I just want to let everyone know that I actually recently had a conversation with Commissioner Marino, and they are in the design process for redoing some of the swales and the parallel parking along Beach Road there, so we're trying to get our hands on those drawings to see exactly what they're doing. So the county is looking at the area and does have plans for the parking. We don't know what it is at this point until we get the drawings, but I do encourage you to reach out to the county commissioner as well. And I've talked about enforcement, law enforcement there, and there was supposed to be additional enforcement this past weekend, so the village manager is actually trying to get an update on that, so we'll see if he has an update there.
That's great, thank you. You see, we are communicating.
You talked to the
That's wonderful, thank you. Yes?
I would definitely like to see limiting the amount of construction that can take place there, the development. Because it's ruining the reason that we live on Jupiter Island. People are being forced out of their homes. I really hope they limit it or stop it completely.
So currently, for people who don't know, one building has already sold and is being torn down, and the one next door has contracts, literally two major pieces of property.
And some of the residents got just bought out.
Yeah,
so to speak.
oh, yeah.
Yes, sir?
but their choice, right? They sold it.
No,
As far as,
Excuse me, sir?
as far as the future is concerned, we have this bifurcation between Palm Beach County, Village of Tequesta, you asked what we would like to see down in the future. We would like to see a consolidation of this area, so it falls under the village of Tequesta instead of this split jurisdiction between Palm Beach County and
Yes.
village of Tequesta.
Yes.
That's a great input, thank you.
I agree.
Yes, another one, please?
I heard, and it's hearsay, that the current parking area on the west side, next to the Intracoastal, is supposed to be paved, which will make the problem even worse. And if you say what we envision in the future, there is space in Coral Cove Park, south of the current parking lot, south of.
Yes.
Why not make a parking lot there and make parking only in that area, not on the west side?
You mean not on the street or not,
Not on the street.
okay, not on, on street parking, but,
Correct.
Increase the parking on the park itself.
Correct.
And
there
those are
are-
inputs.
There are fire pits in the park, tables, people who want to barbecue, they can do it in the park, not on the street.
So there's an area where the employees of the contractor who are working on the building that's going up now, they park in between the road and the ocean.
Okay.
I believe they pay to do that. So would any of those areas be able to be developed for parking rather than having on-the-street parking? They're already using it for parking.
Yeah, that is south of the park.
On the east side,
Yes.
between
Yes.
the road
It's right
and the
between
ocean.
Yes, I know exactly.
Sea glass and the,
On the east side.
Yeah. Oh, who owns it? Probably
That's the county as well, there's the developer has a.
It is
permit
county?
with the county for their staging and parking there for construction.
And then you put it back, with the repair.
Yeah, they have to leave it in the condition it was when they're done.
Okay, yes?
I would like to see like some kind of speed bump right at the curb, like where.
On the curb, yes.
It's terrible.
Which curve is that you're talking about?
Right by Ocean Villas.
Your turn.
There's only one curve.
Yes?
The speed limit needs to be reduced, period, probably to 25. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
pedestrian
Nightmare.
death trap out there, and cyclists too.
It's a problem, the speed limit, again, because there are two jurisdictions. It's Tequesta and Palm Beach County, so that's what is
Well, this
part
is-
of the situation.
This is Tequesta, when they come around that corner.
Oh, okay.
Hey, you can change the county signs, they're never gonna notice.
Okay, yes, sir?
So if this is the time to be a wish list for the future, then I would say the following, my own personal feeling. I'm not a fan of 11 stories, but I'm fully aware of the Burke-Harris Act, which you might want to explain to most of the people who are in this room, how that limits what you can do, but I feel like anything that's over 7 stories is just out of sync with human scale. I'd like to see all of the overhead utility lines from the bridge all the way to the northernmost condo
Okay,
buried.
you are just did the introduction to this question.
Yes.
What?
So can we,
Oh,
Building
okay.
right 7
let me change that.
I have another wish list item
Yes, we will. So,
for the previous question.
yes, for the previous question?
Yeah, how about a limitation on simultaneous development permits?
Right,
I was
Yes.
thinking about it.
Yeah.
So,
yes. But the council voted down the council voted down a moratorium to look at some of these issues, correct?
Yes,
the-
they do.
okay, the moratorium is one thing, but what we are doing now, and we're gonna get to it, is we are considering things that we can improve in the code. The first step, the first slides I show you is what is on the code now. So, and what can we improve on the code? We can still improve the code regardless of a moratorium.
But that takes time and you're.
What was the,
Well,
what was
then
the thing you were
I
talking
will
about?
get there to
Yeah,
the
those
next
are good
step.
ideas.
Presumably,
What
we're
was
gonna have
that?
another application.
Somebody
very
said,
shortly.
the wish list.
Oh, my wish list?
No, that was design,
Yeah.
before that,
The limitation of simultaneous
Exactly.
building permits.
limitation.
We can't move that fast. It's government.
Wouldn't the moratorium though have prevented like someone now, if someone applies right now, aren't they
Yes,
up against the current codes?
yes,
So-
that would have prevented.
So it's,
I'll have another
right,
question.
so it's too
So-
late at that point.
Right, because it was 3-2,
Right.
because I was at the meeting.
Okay,
We know who was who.
so,
Yes, we do.
anyway,
I don't think I
Yes.
finished, I didn't finish my wish list.
well, I would like to move into the next one, that is, what do you
Oh.
think about building design and aesthetics?
Good,
So we're
okay.
gonna go, that's the reason, that was an introduction
It's
already.
right up my alley.
Exactly,
Okay.
so, yes,
So,
Another little wish list, a bicycle path,
yes,
a bicycle path.
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
If it's there, they'll use it. Right now, there's nothing.
Yes, bicycle path.
We're talking about the bicycles.
Okay, let's talk about this. What do you think about building design and aesthetics? Yes?
okay.
So, in Juno Beach, I'm the mayor in Juno Beach, so this is also concerning to me because when this topic comes up, we have a proposed development for the corner of Donald Ross Road and US 1. Everyone thinks it's ugly. And whenever we bring this up, we hear about the Burt Harris Act from our town attorney. There's property rights, and you can't tell people necessarily what color you want the building. So it becomes this trade-off, how much can we dictate in terms of aesthetics and design? You know, how do you tell
Well,
somebody?
the Burt Harris Act is with regard to height. I mean, there are many municipalities that have design guidelines. Design guidelines that will say, okay, in this corridor or this area, you can pick and choose from these colors, from these materials. That's very common. I mean, that doesn't do anything
But
against the
height-
property
The
rights.
height is the height, but, you know, the aesthetics, how do you control aesthetics?
Yes, the aesthetics, the way to do it is to have something in the code, to have a design guideline. Many municipalities, they will have for their commercial corridor or residential corridors and specific design guidelines that will say, well, we want a scale down, or we want this, or we want more landscaping, or something. You can have in your code a design guideline for a specific area. The height is completely different. The height and density are very different.
So explain it to us. What is the height?
Oh, okay, that's a great question. So you buy a lot knowing that it's, for example, 11 stories. So after you buy that lot, knowing that your rights is to 11 stories, for example, a municipality decides to say, no, from now on, this will be only 3 stories or 4 stories. Well, all the property right that you vested on, you know, that because you bought the lot, so that is pretty much against, you know, it's illegal basically. That's the Burt Harris Act. You cannot do that. So that's what the mayor is saying.
After purchase.
Right.
Yes.
But the city could change the code to say 7 feet,
7 stories.
7 stories
7 feet.
going forward
We
on that
have
property.
a number of buildings, we have already 4 buildings, existing buildings that are 11 stories.
So that gives future developers
Yeah,
that
right
right.
now, the zoning district is 11 stories, because we already have 2 buildings that are 9 stories, 4 buildings that are 11 stories. So that's what is the zoning code right now. So it will
Can you
be,
change the zoning code to 7?
that will be, at this point, it will be very, very difficult, and we will be opening a completely legal battle, you know. Yes, that's very difficult.
And that's
Yes.
the problem, that it's a catch-22. Well, we want to control it, and here's our wish list, but if we do it, we open ourselves to lawsuits because, well, you changed the guidelines, and we bought the property with the expectation we could do this.
Well, there are different ways. That's the reason I show all those slides. You can have scaled down buildings, you can have, still you have 11 stories, but you can make different adjustments from the design point of view. You can have different type of structures, colors, materials, windows, so there are a number, landscaping that will truly help. So there are a number of ways of doing that, but have to be on the code. So,
Can you do a grandfather type thing? Or no?
excuse me?
A grandfather type thing, where you pass a new code, but you grandfather anything that's existing.
We are trying to improve our code, you know, with the items that we have already there. The density is 12 units per acre, and the height is 11 stories. Most of these, the other municipalities, they allow to 18 stories or to 18 units per acre, you know, so we, you know, so, anyway, what do you think about building design and aesthetics, Mr. Bradford?
Well, so I've already said I think 7 stories is my preference, but I understand the limitations that cities have. I think the underground utilities that run, the overhead utilities that run from the bridge around the curve and all the way to the northern property, what is it, 400 Beach Road, 500 Beach, I forgot the number, but that those should all be buried. And just to give you an example, look at sea glass, and that the fact that that developer was not required to put those overhead utilities that are in the right-of-way underground. I mean, it looks hideous. It's like, who would want to live on the 2nd and 3rd floor and look straight out to the intercoastal through utility lines? That's the essence of what has happened. And then I think the landscaping, I'd let Steve go wild in terms of what he does and requires on the properties to hide, you know, blank stretches of wall and concrete. But I'd also implement a streetscape plan for that whole road where there's trees in the right-of-way, and maybe even bicycle paths of some kind to get, somebody mentioned earlier, parking for bicycles, etc. How are they going to get there? They're going to compete with the cars that are zooming around the corner of the curve? It's dangerous, so we need that. And I'm not a fan of modern glass. It's just overwhelming. I don't know the answer. It's not my bailiwick, but you know, I like more earthen-looking structures with less glass, and I don't know how to articulate it, but
More character.
I know it when character. I know it when I see it, but I have a hard time describing it to people.
I understand what you are saying, you know, basically know that Miami kind of look, basically. You know, that is pure glass and this and that. So what about the scaled down buildings?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, more scaled down buildings
Scaled down
where,
buildings.
I mean, we're looking at, right now, the developers built a shoebox across from us with, that's it, it's a shoebox.
Yes.
How about different colors? Instead of all the same?
Okay, a variety of colors.
Yes.
Be careful what you wish for.
But there has to be a limitation to colors.
Well, we can have a design island with already pre-selected colors, you know, so, and that you all agree, so it will not be like, ooh.
Neil, I left something out. My preference I've seen on most of the new condos to the south, what I've seen, and I do like about this, the parking is underground.
Yeah.
Yes, not like a separate building.
Who wants to get, salt is gonna eat your car up, so why don't you go underground where you have a chance of survival for the car?
It's true.
And it's a space issue.
Yeah, the roads are big enough for that.
Is parking underground considered one of the stories, one of the 11 stories?
We measure from the ground, so if it is underground,
Doesn't have
it doesn't count, so
Halfway.
it's 101 feet, the building. So, yes, sir?
There's also quite a bit of flooding on the road, in the storm, not even from a hurricane, just from regular downpour. I'm not sure if there's any plan in place to alleviate some of that.
The flooding,
Yeah.
I'm gonna write it down. No, that's on the wish list. Let's write it down, the flooding. With regard to design and buildings,
If we're stuck with 11 stories along the beach, I'd love to see it scaled back so that there's still some view from across.
Right, it doesn't matter, paint, trees, whatever, if you can't see.
scale back from the beach road or scale down from the ocean?
So that when you're on the beach road, it's not a wall of glass or
I got it.
anything right in front
Yeah,
of
scale
you.
down towards
That's
the
right, can
beach.
you affect the step back, make it more than 2 feet every
Yeah, I like that.
story? Can that
Well,
be?
we are going to look at the code and say, for example, if you start, because remember the front setback was 20 or 25.
20.
So if you have, for example, you can go maybe to 3-story, 4-story, then you have to scale down and so on. So we're gonna need to look at the code and propose something. Yes, sir?
Also light pollution for the turtles.
Light pollution is extremely important.
Yeah, because right now you have a 4-story concrete building perpendicular to the beach, and you're now turning it parallel to the beach and going 10 stories with all glass is the proposal. So that's definitely gonna affect the turtles.
Well, believe me, the Palm Beach County takes seriously the turtle protection. So, and the developers need to have their approval. So that's extremely important. Yes, what about more, about the buildings? Let's move,
Increasing setbacks.
increasing setbacks.
So right now, your setback is 10 feet from the property line?
No, the front setback is 20.
Okay, and the property line is how far off of Beach Road?
It depends,
It
I mean,
varies.
because usually there is a sidewalk and there is some green area. So it will be maybe 10, 15 feet from the beach road itself. So
What is the setback from the beach?
20
Only 20 feet?
That's, no, 20 feet from the property line in the
from
back.
the proper, yeah, she's saying the beach side.
On the beach side, what is the setback?
I'll tell you right now, 1 second. So we don't have to pass all the slides. Very clear. The front setback is 20 feet. The rear setback is 20 feet. That's what the code right now. So the problem is that the property line goes into the beach, so you have to count that 20 feet. Let me show you.
Even if there's an old footprint there?
What? Let me show you. Here is the ocean.
Yes.
So this is the beach. So, and then you have sometimes you have like this. This is,
Right.
and here is beach road. So what it's saying the code is you have 20 feet. If this is the property line, you have to count 20 feet here. So, and here you can start your building, basically.
And so part of that 20 feet is the beach, is that what
Could
you're
be,
saying?
because if the property line goes to the beach, you start counting from the property line, so
Can
yes.
you increase the setback from the edge of the beach?
We are writing down all your input and all
Write
your
that down.
ideas. Yes.
Increase the beach.
No, I agree.
There's
Yes.
another variable called the Coastal Construction Control Line.
Yeah, that's another story.
Which is another intersection of multiple jurisdictions, but in this case, it's the FDEP. And it basically says that no part of the structure of the building can be within 50 feet of the beach.
Yes, that's another, we are going to address all of that when we do, talk about the dunes, the CCL and all of that. That's part of the dunes, discussion.
Okay.
So, we are putting here increasing setbacks already here. So, let's talk about our current zoning code. We already started talking. You guys are ahead of me all the time. setbacks, I already heard, increasing setbacks. You know, any other idea with regard to our current zoning code?
For the past 20 years, not so.
Yes.
The new buildings that they have come, even the current one, the most current under construction, there is no parking for the vendors. There is no parking for the guests. They're parking on the street. How could that really achieve the all the past 20 years buildings that they built on Beach Road? Disregard, it was all mangrove across from Tequesta Tower. It is a new building with no parking for the vendors.
Vendors and guests.
And
Which
yes,
is kind of,
that includes Clarish, Cliveden, Carlisle, Seagrass. And the beach road for the past 20 years has had at least 2 deaths
oh,
right in front of our property. Because of the water back now, the flood, the slightest rain, there is a flood on the road.
the flood.
For the beauties, at least the basic safety is not there.
What building are you in?
Tequesta Tower.
Yes,
In the current code, is there a limitation or is there a requirement to have a certain number of parking spaces for a certain number of units for
Yes.
each building?
yes, there is I believe is 2 per unit, 2 parking spaces per unit.
2 parking spaces for the residents.
Yes, per unit.
How about for guests and vendors?
Well, I need to check the code, but I don't recall having specific numbers for, that's the reason I already wrote it down. I think it's an excellent idea. So I don't recall at this moment if the code provides for guests and vendors.
All right, question here.
Yes,
So we're talking about underground parking.
yes.
That may alleviate this parking situation. Take off my mask here. So if the parking goes underground, does it make the building larger since they don't have to make parking on, around the building to accommodate parking like underneath the awnings or whatever creates a lot of parking. That takes up a lot of room on the piece of property, right? So if it goes underground, can that make the building larger if all the parking is underground? Because you have to park
Because of the
people.
coverage.
Because
She's
of
saying
coverage
the mass,
issue.
mass
The mass.
Yes.
So will it be a larger building?
Yeah,
Could it be a larger building if the parking is underground?
correct.
No, I don't think so, because the building,
Well, I mean,
the
the
building
density.
still needs to comply with our code, setbacks, lot coverage, open space,
Yeah,
you
but
know.
lot coverage, doesn't a parking structure count as lot coverage?
Sure.
If it is outside,
Right, that's what she's saying.
no,
So-
she's saying
Right,
underground.
no, but I'm
No,
saying
she's
if you go
saying if
underground, that would increase the side of the building above ground.
So if you're
So
allowed,
we're talking a larger, you could get away with a larger building, more mass, if everyone's going underground
Correct.
to park.
Well,
so,
you know,
as far as the code
I like
goes-
drawings, so.
but as far as the code goes, then, I think what she's saying is, if you're allowing underground parking, you should reduce the coverage allowed on the lot.
But if the underground parking is really underneath the footprint of the building, that doesn't affect,
Right.
you
No,
know.
what am I
So
can
that's-
understand what I'm saying, is like you have a certain size property and you are having, all these people need to park around the
Yes.
building. That creates a loss of space for the building,
Of
because you
course.
have to have,
Yes,
all these parking lots.
outside, yes,
But if you go underneath,
yes,
you don't need that parking space.
Exactly.
You could have a larger building that
Possibly.
covers.
I see what you're saying, so basically it will be an incentive for the developer to have underground parking.
For a bigger building.
Yes, I see that, you know.
And build more.
But
Well,
But there's maximum
it
density.
depends,
But
it
you can still
depends.
build a bigger building and have larger apartments.
Yeah, what
Still
you are
get
saying
people
is
in
if you
there.
have the main building here,
Yeah.
and then instead of having this little structure to park here, you know, like many buildings they have now,
Yeah.
this is beach road.
Right.
So now, you get rid of this, you put it underneath the building, you
Yeah.
know? So basically, you have more open space,
I'm
more
not saying,
green
okay,
area.
what does the
Make a bigger
developer
building.
say?
Or you make it bigger.
He makes it building bigger.
It could be, because now you are not accounting for that, you are right, yes.
the density would control this.
Yes.
The density will
And that-
control it. If they only have 12 per acre and they only have 1 acre, they only get 12 units no matter what.
Right, but it's still a bigger building, it'll be, yeah, condos will
12
be more
units?
expensive.
For 12 units,
Like,
if
but
we
have you
have
heard what the
larger
12
units.
units are? They're 4,000, 5,000, and 6,000 feet.
You're creating more.
Square feet per condo. The smallest one is 40.
Okay, with regard to zoning changes, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I make a recommendation then of a zoning
Yes.
change based on what you just described?
Yes.
If underground parking is allowed, can we decrease the coverage allowed? Because I'd rather have a 1-story above-ground parking garage than a 11-story building on that allotted coverage.
Okay, we will look at into the relationship between lot coverage and underground parking, basically.
And I also have a question about underground parking so close to the ocean with regard to flooding,
Yeah, I don't think,
drainage.
I don't think we can do it.
Well, believe me, there are very strict rules. FEMA has very strict rules also, and definitely the building code. So with regard to, we talk about setbacks, landscaping, lot coverage, and relationship with underground parking, flooding. So all of these items, we can look at it very close on when we look at the zoning code. So let's look at now the next question. Let's see here. So we are getting there.
Elsa,
Yes,
on landscape, just as a Tequesta resident,
yes.
I'd like to see the landscape buffers get bigger. Right now, they're 5 feet for the sign, 10 feet for the front. So what ends up happening is you just plant a row of trees or palms. It needs to be wider so we get some movement in and out with the landscaping.
What do you mean by movement?
Rather than like a row of trees,
Yeah.
We have a
like
little more
stagger back and forth, in and out.
Up and
So
down.
aesthetically
Yeah.
more pleasing, got it.
aesthetic pleasing.
Look,
Yes?
it may go without saying, but I want to make it for the record, based on what you're hearing today, R3 needs design guidelines,
Thank you.
period.
R3.
Is it possible to define setbacks based on elevation above grade? Where the setbacks increase as the grade goes up?
Yes,
So the ground level setback 20 feet, all right, you go above 3 stories, the setback is now 50 feet.
yes,
Above, 6
Right now-
stories, it's now 100 feet or whatever.
yes, it's definitely, and right now, our code for the side setback already has that 50 feet, then you have to have 2 feet only, so to increase, but we are going to look at that for the front setback and also the side setback.
Right, the north and south edges, so that
Yes.
you maintain visibility from across the street to the ocean. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, yes,
Instead of
to-
just
and
coming
to
from
go-
the ocean back, or from the street back, thin the building as it goes up,
You are thinking
Maintain
from the,
visibility.
let's do again this.
right?
It's a great point.
Yeah, it's a great point.
So what you are saying is, if this is Beach Road, so to scale up, if we still have here 11 stories,
Well, where's the ocean?
so here is the ocean,
No, that's what you currently are saying.
so
I'm saying
you
going the other
want,
way.
you want to scale down also from the ocean.
No.
No, I'm
We're
saying
saying
from
from
the
Beach
south
Road.
edges
The
of it.
sides.
Right, yeah.
This is Beach Road and this is the ocean.
The other side.
The
No.
other
The
two
sides,
sides.
the sides,
The
the side
sides.
setbacks. Okay,
The sides to have a similar setback, so there's
so
more
if we
visibility.
do this in the side then, so this is what you are saying.
I'm saying Beach Road is on the
So
front
the
of the
ocean's
paper.
back there, and
Yes.
the beach road's here.
It's here, yes, I understand. So the scale down, we are considering that and we will look at, because the taller the building goes, you need to scale down.
So you can see through to the beach as you're driving on Beach Road.
I know, to leave little
That's what you're saying.
visions, you know, so
Yes.
basically, if you have another, let's do another one. So, let's see.
Good question.
You have here one building. So in here is where you want to see a view, the other building then should be,
Yes.
so, and you are driving along Beach Road and you can still see the ocean, that's what you are saying,
Right. So the question was
Maintain
just
visibility
asked,
from across the street.
the visibility.
yeah, so the question was just asked is if the code is currently, the zoning code currently is you go up how many feet and then have to go in
Yeah,
2
I'll tell
feet.
you right now.
Sea-Glass does not have that.
So, well, it's very low what now you have to do, you know, so basically, after 50 feet, you know, after
50 feet.
50 feet,
Right.
after 50 feet of the here, then you have 2 feet.
Right.
So that's what is the code now, you know, so,
Does Sea-Glass have that, or did they get a variance?
no, they did, Siglas only got variance for the drainage, you know, so,
There you go.
other than that, they did not get the variance. So, anyway, okay.
So if Seaglass is following that code, then I would say we need to change the code, because it's not, when you look at Seaglass, you don't get that feeling that you just created on that.
Exactly,
Two
because
feet.
our code is very minimum what you go
So we
in,
want more than
2
that.
feet,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from a pedestrian level, 2 feet is, you know,
That's already code and they've.
so, anyway, but,
So the building,
50 feet up,
the 300 building is going to go by the code that you have in your hand.
yes. The 300 Beach Road is current code.
So how quickly,
Right,
how
because we
quickly
didn't
can you
vote on
change
moratorium.
code?
We're gonna get to that, next steps. Remember, the table of contents, we are almost there. Thank you for your patience. So, next slide. So we already talked what your thoughts about. So, so now, and maybe we should start here. How do you most use the corridor? Do you walk, do you bike?
All of the above.
All of the above.
All of the above.
Scooter, walk.
So that's the reason you were also thinking about a biking trail?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So walk, drive, obviously, and ride a bike. So that's, we wanted to hear from you, I mean, how, and most of you use the sidewalk also to walk, I mean, to do the walks. And you have to be crossing all the time on the other side, if you don't live on the other side, on the west side.
The sidewalk on the east side for walking, I think is great. It could use some more trees, would be nice. But how do you make a condominium association put in trees to shade that sidewalk?
We are going to look at what is our current right of way, and see how this comes through,
The
So-
sidewalk frequently gets flooded, that you can't walk on the sidewalk, you have to walk around in the street, and it gets all kinds of sand pouring in from the roadway.
So it's flooding over the sidewalk.
But that's more down.
So who does ride their bike here? Okay. Huh?
Not there?
It's dangerous. Okay. Okay, good. So let's talk about the next one.
You don't need a bike lane though.
Okay,
Well,
We do not need a bike lane.
well, I don't know how you would put one in, because there's only X amount
yes, X amount.
of room.
Okay, so the next slide, we're almost there. So with regard to buildings, you know, I think by now I heard pretty clear already that you like the scale down. You know, so this was when we were doing this at the office, said we have to do this slide. You know, but I have heard most of you already say that you prefer rather than a box, you know, to have a scale down aesthetics. Okay. Check out.
Greater than 2 feet.
Exactly.
Oh,
Significant, yes.
Is the scale down on all 4 sides currently, or is it only on one side?
It's only on the sides. It's only on the sides.
It's on the rear as well.
You know, let me
On the
see,
north
on
side?
the rear, yeah, on the rear also, but it's very minimum.
So it's on the
Over
beach,
50 feet. On the rear,
on the beach road side?
yes,
Okay.
you know, but it's only 2 feet after 50 feet, you know, so that's what the code is right now.
So really,
And the new building will be built to the existing code.
Yes. That the reason is extremely important to understand what is the existing code, you know?
How long is that code then? Because I can't think of one building on Beach Road right now that.
The
is
scale
scaled back.
well, you
What
know,
we-
it's only, when you stop and think about it,
50
the-
feet,
You wouldn't see
the
it.
code is 101 feet.
yes.
So halfway up the building, you're getting a 2-foot setback, you know, so it's pretty insignificant.
I was gonna say, right now, it's not actually scaled back, it's that the entire building facade has to meet that setback. It doesn't
Yes.
have to currently create that shape.
Oh, I see.
They can do, they can just do it
It can be
casually.
straight, but it has
Yes,
to meet that setback
exactly.
of the 20 plus.
We are looking at the code very closely. So please, with regard to landscape, you know, Mr. Parker is here, so landscape buffers, I think I heard pretty clear also.
Yes.
Greater than 5 feet.
More than 5 feet.
Yes.
Right now, the code only is 5 feet buffer on the sides and 10 feet on the front of the building. So definitely,
What did Steve say he wanted?
Steve?
10?
Mr. Parker, please.
I'm sorry?
What did you say you'd like the buffer to be?
Oh, 10 on the sides and 15 in front.
Okay.
That
That's what
way,
we
you
should
know, we
do.
don't have a straight line of trees and palms
Right.
running along the property line. We can go in and out, jog things, and create some interest.
That's fine with me.
Oh, I think so. Sure.
Okay, let's see. Where are we? Next steps. Many of you already asked what is the next steps. So we are, today is the initial workshop. Now, after gathering all this feedback and input, we will draft a code, and then we will bring back to you that. We will have another workshop. So, and we will show you what is the proposed, the draft code.
Is it possible that you would not approve any more buildings until the new code is passed? Because already we have the 300 building that's going to go in under these present codes. So our input would feel more valued if we knew that you were going to wait to approve the next building until the new codes were in place.
One of the things, part of is due process. Once the village receive an application, you know, we have to process that application. That means Bradford is smiling.
Yeah.
That means due process, which means we are now reviewing. So once the applicant fulfill all the code requirements, they will be here by the Planning and Zoning Board, and then will be final approval by the Village Council. So
Right.
to answer your question, we cannot, you know, intervene on that, they due process.
Right, but what about the second building who's not been sold? None of the condos have been sold.
It's
Well,
closing,
we are,
it's closing August 8th.
we are working, let's look at it, let's go one by one, please, on the next steps. Let's just go one by one. Okay, today is our initial workshop. Now, we will draft code language, and then there will be a follow-up workshop in October.
It's too late.
It's too late.
But the
It's
next
too
building-
late.
the next buildings are built in August, so they're gonna run
Yeah, the next
Everything
building,
across the
right.
street.
October. Then,
So I want to ask Molly a question as the mayor. Can that vote come back up again? Can that vote come back up again?
yes,
I don't
one
know.
second,
It was-
please.
It was voted down, so it won't be brought back to council.
So that's against the town code to bring it back up? I mean, I think you're talking about two huge pieces of property in the town of Tequesta that we got no notice at all that they were looking at, you know, slowing this process down. It's not about, you know, one building here or one building there. It's two huge pieces of property right next to each other that's gonna be
That really impacts
24/7, 24/7, 2 or 3 years of construction. And the city is not willing to look at waiting and holding at least one of the two of them up. Are people being paid off to vote that way?
Let me explain
please.
something.
I can't do
According,
it.
Please, can we hear?
according to Robert's Rules of Order, in order for that vote to come back up, please don't hold me to this, I'm going from memory, but one of the, so we know that 3 people on the council voted to not implement zoning in progress. One of those 3 has to make a motion at a meeting to bring it back up, and one of the other people who voted to not do it needs to second the motion, and if the vote is 3-2, it can be reconsidered.
Thank you,
Are
that's very
any of
good
those council
information.
members here?
Yes, but I'm not going to point fingers.
Okay.
Okay,
I feel like
so,
we
but
didn't have a chance to.
please, we have 12 existing buildings. You know, one obviously is already 300 Beach Road, and we know another one. So there will be more buildings coming through. So even though there might be not a good timing for, obviously, for the 300 Beach Road, I mean, we still believe that this process is extremely important. So, because you will have in your book a new code by January, if everything goes up to, you know, this timeline. So, what would you rather have, not status quo or a new code by January?
A new
Well,
code
the
by
issue-
October.
The issue is that 2 out of the 3 buildings that have been approached right on the beach who are the most vulnerable. It's already too late. August 8th is when the second one closes, so.
But the fact that they are closing, let's understand each other. The fact they are closing, it doesn't mean that we will get an application that day. Because when they bring, when I say application means a site plan review, set of drawings, everything, they come here and they said, knock knock village, I want these drawing, this set of drawings to be reviewed for site plan review and put it through the process. I don't know when we will receive that, those set of drawings.
But I thought you said that.
300 Beach Road is in process.
Right.
But you,
So, you do, the codes you follow are the codes that are in place at the time that they apply.
Yes.
Not at the time they buy the property.
of course, yeah,
Okay,
when
so
they
that-
apply,
That rule you talked about before, that, you know, they're kind of grandfathered in.
I didn't talk about
About the
grandfather
height.
in.
The
About
Harris.
For Harris.
Yeah, that's only height, that's not,
Yeah, that's height, definitely height. And then what I'm saying is, again, I don't know when we will receive the application for 250 Beach Road.
Well, I'd like to ask that the draft code language get completed in August of 2022, and that the follow-up workshop be in September of 2022, and move it all up a month.
That's a consideration that we can look into it. Obviously, the village manager needs to provide me guidance also, you know, with regard to that. And then, because we have this proposed timeline, but.
Well, I thought this was a meeting to
Yes,
say what our
we
wishes
said-
are.
Exactly, and that's what I mean, it's for consideration, so
Right.
we will consider that, please, write down. So to basically expedite
I
the code.
think, I don't know how everybody feels, but I'll say how I feel. We already have one building up, we have another building going up under the new codes, and now we have the potential to have new codes in place for the next building that's approved. And so what would the mechanism be? Is it back to your idea that we would then have to write to the councilman who declined to approve the moratorium and see if we can move them to make a motion to revisit this? Is that the step?
You call them or write them or whatever. You need to communicate with them your wishes and to see if anyone will entertain the idea of doing that.
I wasn't at the meeting, but what was the rationale for turning it down? Just curious.
Basically, that it's unnecessary.
Basically
They
what?
don't live there.
Basically, my take was that they felt it was unnecessary.
I have a
You
question.
can go back, the live stream of the meetings are always on our website, so you can go back and watch it.
Yeah, I tried to pull it up that meeting, we couldn't get it, it wasn't running already.
It was sound only.
Yeah.
Sound
Yeah.
only that.
Well, we do have the sound, so if maybe
It's
we
all
can
down.
distribute that to those who are interested, let us know. We have instructions, the sound is still available, right? Yeah, so there is a sound.
Are they transcripts?
They do minutes, but they're not, they're
Yeah,
super,
basic.
super detailed. So the best would be to go back and just, listen to the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question, and Mayor, you may be able to give us some input on this one. This whole thing, this whole workshop tonight has been great, but I'm getting the feeling that, we're really not looking here at what's already been purchased and what's in the process of being purchased. And I'm getting the feeling that the town of Tequesta feels that more of those buildings, because you've referenced a few times, there's 12 buildings, are gonna get bought up. Or possibly bought up. What I'd like to know is, does anybody in the village, or maybe even the manager, know that there's more plans to try and buy up more of these buildings? Is there discussion, is there?
I will answer for myself, I don't know any of that information. So I don't know if anybody
I
else.
only know of the two that's been referenced tonight.
Say it again?
I only know of the two that's been referenced tonight, the 300 billion, 250, and she's giving me the status of those, that's all I know.
This seems like an awful lot of work that we're going through here to make changes that are not gonna occur to the first two buildings that are gonna be demolished and rebuilt. And so we're making these changes.
We are trying to be proactive. Look at what would have happened if we had
Correct.
done this 2 years ago, 1 year ago, you know? So, and that's what, we don't wanna be
Okay.
in this situation 1 year from now, why we didn't do anything. We already had 2 buildings and we didn't do anything. So, this is the time for action, you know, so we are trying to be proactive, yes.
Just a question, what was the time frame between when the lot was purchased, the building was purchased, and they were able to get the plans in?
I don't know that
Does anybody know
timeline.
that?
What was the question?
Can you repeat your question?
Okay, so what's the time frame from when they purchased the building to when they were able to apply for the new building?
Oh, apply for
I don't
new
know.
building, I mean, the drawings
Was
were
it like
probably
3
done
months?
before they ever tore the old
Well, it
building
would
down.
also seem likely that if I was the developer and I knew that they were looking at changing the code, my application would be in
Would
tomorrow.
go
Yeah.
with- Well, yeah, but there
We're
are.
live streaming right now.
There you go.
They're listening. There are certain things that they have to do.
If they're not in the room already.
Yeah, but I don't know, I only know when I receive an application.
Right.
So I don't know the previous part. So, do you have any other inputs, any other questions, any other considerations? You know, this is open microphone now. Yes?
If you want to draft the code language by August, is the county involved in this planning?
No, at this point, we are talking about the Village of Tequesta code.
Right, but some of that involves the county in the park area.
Well, we talk about parking on the street and all of that, those are considerations that we can communicate to the county. Definitely we can communicate to the county, but in terms of our code, we don't, we cannot regulate that. Any other considerations? ideas?
I have one more comment, just to follow up from the earlier conversation. So, we confirmed, the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office is going to do more enforcement this weekend. So,
More enforcement.
more enforcement this weekend, so I have reached out to them from complaints I've been receiving, so.
Good.
So we'll get a report on that after the weekend.
Did you hear that?
No,
They couldn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Palm Beach Sheriff's Office is actually gonna be doing additional enforcement this weekend on the beach road, the county portion of Beach Road. So, because I've been receiving complaints, so I reached out to them about that. So we'll get a report after the weekend.
Thank you, that's great. So, anyway, and then one more. So, thank you so much. This is, here is my phone number, emails, if you have any other ideas. And this PowerPoint will be on the website, so you can access the PowerPoint and call me. That's the phone number. So email me, please. We would like to hear more from all of you, and we are truly grateful that you are here, and for the ones that are streaming also, please let us know your input and feedback. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, very nice job, very nice job.
And I also would like to thank to Sarah and
yes.
Makena. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Well, Mr. Parker, it's good to see you again. Good to see you again. We'll get these meetings.
Thank you so much. Oh my God. Yes. Oh no, wait. I know. Those cones.
It was nice meeting you. Thanks for offering to thank you.
I'm anxious to get that report back. I know we're working hard to get it. So yeah, I'm excited. It's a good week weekend, right? It's probably just right. But no, I mean, it's yes. How are you? We were good. You were in North Carolina. I was.